the path we have traversed, to take a few minutes to look back on the path and measure our growth by the ways and extend our lives, and measure our growth by the ways and extend our lives, touch, attitude, influence, and capabilities, and make a positive difference, touch, in the lives of every species, and make a positive difference, every animate in the lives of every species, every animate and inanimate in this existence. The day honors and commemorates Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, describing the civil services as the steel frame of India, embodying impartiality, integrity, and dedication needed for the unity and administrative stability of this vast country. Today, as we move towards Viksit Orissa and Viksit Bharat, bringing transparency and ease of living to our citizens through digital governance, citizen administration, and capacity honing through efforts like Mission Karma Yogi, the systemic effort is to morph, grow, and reimagine our roles and relevance to public service delivery. In a country as multidimensional as India, we are colorful and kaleidoscopic. Every turn or jiggle of the kaleidoscope gives a different pattern, each requiring a different, tailored, coordinated response. We are a country with every permutation, combination imaginable, with generous doses of unpredictability, from nature to human events, with a burgeoning population that forces creative solutions. And today, we stand on the cusp of disruptive technological advancement, geopolitical realignment, and climatic impacts. What can the civil services do but hit the ground running? People and power, aspiration and inspiration, known and unknown. Our wisdom, intelligence, and resources are tested to the limit. And within the given administrative system we work in, our prime guiding light is the powerful purity of our intention, translated into intelligent action, in mindful service that fulfills the heart. On behalf of the Government of Odisha and Gopabandhu Academy of Administration, we are part of GA and PG department. It is our privilege to extend the warmest of welcomes to our civil services family, led by our Chief Secretary, Madam Anu Garg. Our welcome to the DG of Police, to Development Commissioner, Senior Secretaries, Heads of GUI offices, officers from administrative services, both all India and state, line department offices of every service, our DCs, to our collectors and their teams who have joined us online, and to those joining the live stream of this program. It is but fitting to welcome our keynote speaker for the occasion, who is none other than Dr. Jugal Kishore Mahapatra, former Chief Secretary of Orissa. Some of the beautiful moments of my life carry the flavor of his administration. Dr. Jugal Mahapatra is a postgraduate in economics from the Delhi School of Economics and holds a master's degree in economics from Boston University, USA. He joined the Orissa cadre of the Indian Administrative Service in 1979 and has held many senior level positions in the state government, including the posts of Secretary Rural Development, Secretary Revenue, Secretary Public Enterprises, Secretary to the Honorable Chief Minister, Development Commissioner, and Additional Chief Secretary Finance. He was also the Chief Secretary to the Odisha government in 2013-14. In the central government, he served as Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Rural Development during 2004 to 2009. Subsequently, during 2014-16, he was Secretary to the Government of India in the Departments of Fertilizers and Rural Development. Post-retirement, he completed his doctoral research on the impact of privatization on the performance of divested state-owned enterprises from XIM University, Bhubaneswar. He was the president of the Odisha Economic Association during 2023-24. Currently, He is the chairman of the Committee on Administrative and Governance Reforms, constituted by the Government of Odisha. He is also the non-executive chairman of Shriram Finance Limited, a listed Nifty 50 company. We warmly welcome you, sir. As we now step into the program for the evening, may I now invite our Chief Secretary, Ms. Anu Garg, to grace the House with her special address on the occasion of Civil Services Day 2026. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Today's keynote speaker, my senior colleague, Jugal Mahapatra sir, all the other colleagues present here, all the collectors and their teams, civil servants who have joined by VC, ladies and gentlemen, at the outset, let me congratulate each one of us on this occasion of Civil Services Day. I am personally so indebted to sir for having accepted our request, albeit very late, for having joined us here. And I'm sure all of us are looking forward to hearing from him. And therefore, I will keep my special address very short. Just a couple of points. First thing is that I would like all of you to be enthused about the vision that has been made, because it is in our lifetime that we are actually going to see it start and roll out. So it is a huge vision, as all of you sitting at the back also are aware, where we've set very ambitious targets. So from $113 billion economy, we will be going to $500 billion by 2036 and $1.5 trillion by 2047. And for that, we are at 7.9% growth rate. But even this will not do. So we need to grow at 9.5 to 10 to 11%, and which is not a small feat. However, if we all contribute, if let us say you are the additional secretary looking after HR in your department, but if you do that well, you're able to give talented people on time to the department, I think your job is done. If you are a law officer, joint secretary law in some department, and you are able to get all the court cases done in a manner, or some critical ones, very fast, then your battle is won. Such type, even ASO, SO, at any level, if you are able to put up the files in time and we are able to do that in time, then your job is done. So each one of us will have to contribute, because it's a big target and we have to, all of us, work towards it. Just to give you some examples, Paradip Port Trust is going to double its capacity. Our steel capacity will go up from 27 MT to 100 MT. So these are the kind of changes that are being envisaged. And so the scale that has been conceptualized will be there if we have all hands on deck. All hands on deck. And so I would like each one of you to give your best, give your ideas, and let us take this forward. The second is, you have all heard of scale, speed, and synergy. So we are trying to do things faster, we are trying to do things bigger, and we are trying to do them together, breaking the silos. I would like to introduce a few more S's: scale, speed, synergy, system building. We may, in our enthusiasm, keep starting things, but unless we ground them with proper structures, proper monitoring, third-party evaluations, proper people, not just number one, but a good number two, all those things, SOPs, O&M policies, all that which is going to make a good system. which will last. So even if, let's say, you are transferred, at least the seamless development continues. So that is going to be one S. The other is, which we are all trying in our departments, is simplification. How we can make things easy. So that is another S. And another is sustainability. So in two ways. Sustainability from an environment point of view, which is very important, but also sustainability of our own creations, our schemes, our policies. I mean, we should not just make something and then Sanjeev will say that I can't finance it. So it has to be something which is sustainable. And so we have to all think like that. Having said that, the larger picture, once we have got that larger picture, which we must have on our radar at all times, the routine must not go unnoticed. So when I say that, and this is largely for the collectors, the regular monitoring of all our schemes, all our policies, is it going on well? Because that is how, when you run your house well, you have to go into all the nitty-gritties. So just sometimes we go overboard with new things, with big things, but the little things also have to be constantly monitored. And I'm going to give it another S, which is servicing. So basically, as a civil service, we have to provide service to the rural poor, to the urban people, everyone. Not just poor, to the industries, to IT industries, everything we have to service. And that service must reach the last mile. The last man, the last woman in queue must get that service. So how do we do that is another thing which I would like all of you to keep in mind at all times. Another point is that a lot has changed. At least from my generation, a lot has changed. And from some of you, maybe half the career span, maybe some things have changed. But what we are seeing now is an IT revolution and an AI revolution. What we are seeing is the taking over of Gen Z. We are seeing a lot of urbanization. We are seeing social media. We are seeing more women in the workforce. We are seeing mobile having taken over our lives. And we are seeing, and that's by God's grace, a lot of funds available for whatever we want to do, at least in our state, touch wood. So with so many changes and more, I would like all of you to also rethink, reconfigure what is it that is going to be required now. We can't, what was okay maybe 20 years back may not be okay now. Are we prepared for this kind of AI revolution, for this kind of Gen Z? Are we preparing them enough, or are we prepared for them? Because eventually in 2036, they are going to be in these positions where we are sitting. The final point is that in your careers, and this is for the collectors and for all of you sitting, there will be highs, there will be lows. Highs, please handle with humility, and the lows with positivity. And I'm sure things will work out. As the Chief Secretary of the State, I can assure you of one thing, that honest mistakes are made by everyone, and we are there to support you in all your highs, all your lows, and hope that you will be able to confide in us in whatever issues you are facing. And at the end, I would just like to say, some of the things that are being started by us now are, one, a State Institute for Transformative Initiatives, CT, on the lines of Niti Aayog. So this is going to be a think tank for the government, and which is going to give policy briefs and things like that. The other is a Chief Minister's Economic Advisory Council that was announced in the budget, and also talks like this. So today we have a distinguished civil servant with us giving this talk, but every month maybe on a fixed third Saturday or something like that, we will have somebody from different walks of life talking to us. And so we will be starting that from this financial year. With that, I would like to again wish you all the very best, all of you and all the collectors and their teams on this Civil Service Day, and let us hope that we all can together make a difference. Thank you. I would like to now invite Jugal Mahapatra sir, our keynote speaker, to give his address. Sir.
A very good evening to all of you, those who are here in this hall and those who are joined from different districts. Let me, at the very outset, offer my heartiest greetings to all of you on this very important occasion, the Civil Service Day, whose importance has already been highlighted by Chitra and the Chief Secretary. I won't speak a lot about the Civil Service Day as such and how it originated and the history and the contemporary relevance of it. Let me start with a little lighter vein. All of us who have retired become wiser after retirement. So most of us, when we speak something or write something, everybody says, what is this? You all have become wiser after retirement. And we have assumed the right to pontificate. And it is in this spirit I would like to, sort of seek your indulgence for about half an hour, not more than that. I remember I started my career not as a civil servant, but as a teacher. And my senior colleague told me that never stage your class beyond 30 minutes. That's because that's the optimum attention span of anybody. So I think it's become lower than that. 30 minutes is also very large. So let me see if I can shorten it further. But I'm very happy that, at least the Chief Secretary and Chitra sort of have given me this opportunity. This is something that I'm currently working on. This is work in progress. I don't claim any expertise in this area. I'm learning more and more about it. I'm engaged in a research project. It's a countrywide research project on this subject. Some bit of it I'm involved, and that's what I would like to share. I give you a basic flavor of what this is all about. Next, please. Now, let me present the structure of my presentation, how I'll take you through for the next 20-25 minutes. I shall first deal with the aspiration, as Chief Secretary mentioned, about aspirations of a Viksit Bharat and also Viksit Odisha. I will not, of course, deal with Viksit Odisha, which is anyway you're discussing. The next part is about the complexity of contemporary governance challenges of India and the limitations of state capacity. This is a buzzword that you'd be hearing. I believe Karthik Mullidharan came here and he is the guru of all this, so I won't mention about that. And then I will read, then rest of the thing is focused on something which is now very fashionably called collaborative governance. Now, this is not rocket science. This is something many of us have been doing for years, but academics have a way of spinning things around so that it becomes a little more marketable. So, collaborative governance, what is it? What is the conceptual framework? What are the essential features of collaborative governance? And does collaborative governance deliver better governance outcomes? That's a question I would like to pose and sort of deal with it. And then briefly present to you the working framework of collaborative governance. And then the last page is present some case studies. I mean, it becomes very boring if I deal with abstract concepts, but maybe I could present to you the case studies of some of the well-known case studies of collaborative governance, first in the advanced countries, then in the emerging countries, including India, and then India specifically, there are some examples I would like to discuss. And finally, what are the conditions under which collaborative governance become more, amenable, which make amenable to collaborative governance? Which are the conditions in which collaborative governance is likely to succeed more? That's the sum total of what I'm going to deal with. Next, please. Now, India's march, I mean, we have this vision of we want to be a developed country, a high-income country by 2047. At least we are marching towards, if not a high-income country, at least we have a reasonable prospect of becoming an upper middle-income country. Today we are a lower middle-income country, but we have a realistic prospect of becoming an upper middle-income country in the foreseeable future. And we have made significant, I mean, let me first put the pluses on this side before I go on to the minuses. We have made very significant progress in terms of our development trajectory. The economy has grown at a very reasonable rate of, very robust rate, I would say, of 6.5% over a long period. And this is not something, if you grow at 6% over 12 years, the economy gets doubled. Or 8% you get doubled in 9 years. So 6.5% is a very robust. The world economy, please remember, does not grow beyond 3% per year. So it's a very good rate. First, it is one of the, possibly the fastest growing economy currently. Extreme poverty has fallen by the standard definition of the World Bank. It has fallen to as low as below 3%. And the multidimensional poverty, the last estimate, is also close to around 15%, around 1920, which is pretty good. Life expectancy, as you know, has improved significantly. So has years of schooling. The penetration, digital penetration is extremely remarkable. Among the emerging countries, India has made very significant progress in terms of digital public infrastructure. We have this excellent digital platforms which has improved financial inclusion and made service delivery very, very fast and sort of efficient. And there has been significant, I mean, the physical infrastructure in India also, the development that we see is remarkable. I think compared to what we were in, let's say, before 2000, a remarkable progress in physical infrastructure, not just in some parts of the country, not only in Mumbai metros or somewhere, but people tell me when they go to Bihar, for example, which used to be a graveyard of all these things. Today, it has got very, very remarkable infrastructure, something that one can be. So I think in terms of other also, in terms of health services also, we have reasonably good, much better health services as in comparison to what we had 20-25 years back. Next. Now, coming to India's development challenges, despite high growth, however, we have severe scarcity of good jobs, decent jobs, good quality jobs. We would see this India jobs report that comes out by Azim Premji or the PLFS also. The quality of jobs we were generating is not very good. Most of the people are working in the informal sector without job security, without any decent contract. There is no written contract in many cases. What is happening recently in Noida and all is a pointer to kind of severe scarcity of good quality jobs. So it's a very, very major development challenge. Absolute poverty has definitely declined, but so our inequality problem remains fairly challenging, both in terms of personal distribution of personal wealth and income, and also in terms of regional spread of development. There is a clear north-south divide in terms of our development trajectory. If you cut India into half, you can see on north and south, you can see a divide, and also similarly west and east. In fact, some time back, somebody was asked me, why is it that we see this kind of thing? And there is a very interesting, thing. If you see, and this is not something that we often see, historically, if you see the so-called, we had three different land systems: Raitwari, Mahalwari, and Jamindari. So you can see the Raitwari and Mahalwari areas are clearly developed. Whether it is west and south, they had this Mahalwari and Raitwari system there. Whereas large parts of North India and Eastern India were under the permanent settlement system. And they are all Jamindari system, they are all languishing. So I think institutions do matter, and there is a development divide. So regional inequality is a big challenge. Agriculture, of course, we had the Green Revolution and all that. No significant breakthrough. We have all been hoping for a second and third Green Revolution, but that has eluded us in many ways. We may be very, very self-sufficient. In fact, we have surplus of cereals, but many other, the food basket is changing, and many commodities were import dependent. So agriculture breakthrough that we were expecting hasn't come about. In the area of education and health, the access has tremendously increased thanks to the Sarva Sikkha Abhijan, or what they call now, you call it Samagra Sikkha Abhijan, and the National Health Mission. The access has increased tremendously. There is no doubt about it. I mean, there is no, almost everywhere you have schools, health centers and all that. But the quality of education and quality of healthcare they are formidable challenges, and we're struggling with that. Again, coming back to infrastructure, while infrastructure, we build excellent infrastructure, our maintenance, upkeeps, and this infrastructure services are somehow below par. We build an excellent facility, but you visit it after 2 years, you see a deterioration which is absolutely... and in the urban areas, urbanization is an emerging issue, and in the urban areas you can see clearly water supply, sanitation, solid waste management, transportation, all remain extremely challenging problems. And apart from all that, we have this we don't seem to have tackled very complex problems like nutrition, for example. And nutrition is a very, very complex problem. Surprising, I mean, we cannot associate nutrition with low income. Even in high income states, we see poor nutrition, poor indicators of nutrition. Reducing malnutrition and preparing, lastly, for the economy and the society to adapt to climate change remains still, kind of a problem that we haven't done very well, I would say. Next. Now, mostly, I mean, people talk about, I mean, while we have done very well in some fronts, as I mentioned, for the challenges that we're facing currently, people ascribe it largely to our limited state capacity. It is not a lack of resources. We had lack of resources many years back. When we were in finance, our daily problem was how to sort of keep our system afloat. Today, we don't know how to manage the surplus. So resources we do have, but state capacity to deliver and to tackle complex problems is somewhat limited. It is not to say that we didn't do anything to reform the system or improve state capacity. In the 90s, following liberalization, we did try to bring in what was called fashionably at that point of time, new public management. Essentially, new public management meant bringing in private sector management practices into governance, public administration. So we had this privatization, we had outsourcing, we had contracting out, public-private partnership. All this bundle of developments, they came under this aegis of new public management. Deregulation, privatization of power sector, and all that happened. So these targeted specific sectors, largely infrastructure, didn't touch the core of governance. And with that too also we adopted in a very, very peaceful manner. The other thing that was tried, largely the internal structure of the government has not changed much, despite sporadic attempts at times. Sometimes we have tried to bring in experts from, we bring consultants, lateral entry, also we tried, but in a very, very sort of, with a lot of trepidation, a lot of hesitation. So this internal structure of the governance of the government remains largely what has been there for a long period. We still work in terms of jurisdictional boundaries, departments, silos, and all these things. And so the rigid boundaries that we have in our structure, in our governance structure, that largely remains despite sort of attempts to reform periodically. Next. I mentioned that, the new public management basically was something like, as I said, it was an importation from the private sector, so it treated citizens as customers. How can we improve customer satisfaction? That was the focus. But that was not adequate to sort of address what is now currently called wicked problems. And I shall deal with this term. This is when I heard about it, I was very fascinated. What is a wicked problem? And NPM focused largely on very problems which are highly structured, highly defined, which can be sort of, you can define the problem very clearly, you can break it down to units, and you can sort of create SPVs to solve this, resolve those problems. So NPM type reforms work very well when the problems are very well defined and clearly defined. The task is identified, but they are not adequate to handle, as I will describe later, the wicked problems of the governance. Next. Next, please. Yeah, go back, please go back. The other thing that, issue that comes up with it, there is also, if you see largely the efficacy or efficiency or sort of effectiveness of governance depends on citizens' trust. How much citizens trust us. If there is a trust deficit, we don't deliver very well. I think you reflect back, whenever you are trusted, you deliver more efficiently. That is something you'd see. That if today in the village, in this districts, people still come, they trudge maybe 50 kilometers, spend it, they spend a day, come to the district headquarters just to grab few minutes with the collector. It is because they trust the institution. I think trust is a very important, element of governance. So unless there is the trust deficit that has developed, that can be, the credibility gap that is there can be addressed. Our efficacy will not be very high. Our ability to solve problems will not be very high. And that is something that, is a very important challenge today. And people don't really trust. In fact, they trust, if you see various surveys, the trust of the citizens in public representatives, in governance institutions are not very high. I'm not talking about any particular office or anything, but government institutions per se, public representatives per se, even judicial institutions per se, the citizens' trust in these institutions are not very high. This is a very, very significant governance challenge, and that's something that we need to work with. So the key challenge that I would flag is, how do we reform governance? What kind of governance reform we need for better development outcomes and building the state capacity so that we can negotiate complex and wicked problems. Can I get a glass of water, please? Next. Thank you. Now, there are, I mean, in the literature, they talk about two types of problems, the governance problem. One is the tame problem. These terms are a little provocative, but they are very, not very, there is a set of problems which could be called tame problems, and the other set of problems which could be called wicked problems. Tame problems are very well structured. You know, they can be solved with expertise. Specialists can give you ideas. If we don't have good ideas, we can get specialists who can tell us how to solve these problems. And the context is very stable. The environment does not change very much during the problem-solving exercise. Verification of whether we have been able to solve the problem or not is also, possible. We can verify that. Very clear example, if you have to design a bridge, a very simple engineering problem, you get, we can survey the terrain, we have got the best engineers, Sanjay can get, or he can hire the best of consultants, and we can design a bridge and execute very efficiently. Similarly, you want to transfer 1,000 crores in 1 minute, if Sanjeev is willing, click of a button, we can transfer. So these are all tame problems, which are highly, defined, well-defined. They are tractable. Wicked problem, by definition, are very, they are not well-defined, very hard to define. What exactly is the problem? We also try to, we are not able to figure out. The solutions are not true or false, but better or worse. I mean, it is a question of relative, and evaluation depends on what is the person's perspective. And every attempt to solve the problem also might change the context, might change the environment, so may create new challenge. So, and there is no clear stopping. We don't know whether the problem has been solved, at what point the problem has gone away. And the interconnectedness of the, it's not something that affects only, it's the, one sector. It is cross-sectoral, cross-jurisdictional, and a lot of other issues are interconnected. I mean, think of nutrition. Nutrition is not simply giving nutritious some couple of eggs in a meal or something like that. It depends on a whole lot of factors. It depends on health, it depends on environmental hygiene, it depends on mother's education. So it's a very complex, interconnected thing. You can't tackle one sector and solve this problem. And therefore, lots of issues relating to, which we face today, which remain less, our success has been underwhelming in those areas of governance where the problems are really complex and wicked in nature. So they're wicked. These are a wicked guy, like the most difficult chap in the class. That is the wicked problem we single out. And I think of poverty. I mean, poverty is something, it's not just, giving some kind of an income transfer. I can give somebody 300 rupees per month or 5,000 rupees per month and poverty goes away. Poverty has so many dimensions and so many connectedness that we find it extremely not very easy to solve this problem. So this is broadly a flavor of what wicked problems are. And while our governance system has been very well equipped to sort of handle tame problems with expertise and efficiency and with maybe some degree of proficiency, we are still struggling to get a hang of the wicked problems. We really are struggling. It's not the lack of intention, lack of effort, but these problems are by nature like that. Next. Oh, I didn't know that it's there. Okay, sorry. So, I mentioned there are a few examples of the wicked problems that we have contemporary in the rising income inequality. I have mentioned about it. And that's threatening economic growth, quality of life. Climate change clearly is a very, very complex problem, and it's not just for India, but for the whole world. Of course, many world leaders don't even recognize that it exists. That itself is a clear example of how wicked it is. They don't even consider there is a problem. Now, cross-border human trafficking is something, is a very serious problem, and that's something, the numbers are very large, 6 to 8 lakh people, majority being women, and particularly these are all from war-ravaged countries, from drought-prone countries, poorer countries. These women are, the people, children are trafficked, and that's a very serious problem. And I flag also a problem from Odisha. Distress migration is not something, again, is a very, very complex problem. And why people migrate outside despite so many avenues of livelihoods available today. Government of Odisha has offered 300 days of employment, not just 100 days. Wage rates are as par with higher wage rates you are offering. So why are still people migrating? And this is not something that so I would say that this class of problems are, they require a very, very different approach perhaps in governance, and that's where the issue would be very, very, okay. So I think the other message that I would like to mention about, to very briefly about the wicked problem is that these problems, they are not restricted to one sector, they are not restricted to one jurisdiction or one stakeholder, so they involve multiple stakeholders, multiple jurisdictions, multiple sectors, so they cut across all kinds of boundaries. And the traditional governance model, as I mentioned, is not very, as of now, is not very equipped. And there is no single organization you can say, this is your task, you solve it. You tell the Women and Child Development Department, this is nutrition, your problem, solve it. I'm sure there is no way, even if you are a superhuman being who, as a secretary, can solve it. So these are all multi-sectoral, multi-jurisdictional, multi-stakeholder oriented. So we need a different approach for that. And that's where the concept of collaborative governance has come into. And this is, this is a theoretical construct. Basically, it all means that the state and non-state actors come together to solve or manage or deliver, either create a policy or manage a program or implement a program. So basically, what it means is that it's not just government. Basically the idea is that governance has become so complex that it can't be left to government alone. There are lots of other agencies have to be brought in if we want to make a, sort of have a good go at this problem. So that's the whole idea of bringing all the relevant stakeholders together to try and crack the problem. That's the whole idea. So you might ask, why, after all, we do involve private sector, we do involve NGOs, we do consult academic, we consult them. Isn't that collaborative governance? I think the essential elements of collaborative governance are, there are 6 major principles, if you, criteria, if you want, any approach would be collaborative if these filters are met. First, this forum, the forum of collaboration is initiated by a public agency. It has to be government-led. It is not, the initiative is not coming from the outside government. The government has to take this initiative and create the forum. The second is that the participants must, in the forum must include non-state actors. And non-state actors include private sector, academia, civil society, and a whole lot. Anybody who is not a part of government can also be treated as non-state actors. And the third is, they are not merely consulted. Mere consultation is not collaborative governance. They must be a part of decision making. They must be a part of this. This is very important principle of collaborative governance. The decision making in the collaborative forum must be they must be together. It must be. And the forum must be formally organized. It is not that I call a few people, have a chat, and that is collaborative. It must be structured. It must be structured. And then the decision must be largely by consensus. and the intent, the attempt should be to make, take the decision by consensus. Even if consensus is not achieved in practice, the attempt must be to achieve consensus so that everybody is taken along. So that is the fifth principle. And finally, the forum of collaboration is on public policy and public management. It is not something that relates to outside. Any problem that is of governance, of public policy, that would be so these are 6 essential principles of any collaborative initiative which fulfills largely these filters or pass this criteria. They could be called collaborative, and this is where we can this is an approach that can work. Now, question is, does collaborative governance lead to better governance? So for that, we need to sort of figure out what do we sort of broadly mean by governance. So very simple framework is of governance is the state capacity, capability or capacity, whatever you call it, accountability, and then responsiveness. So anything that will, initiative which will augment state capability, which will make the government or governance more accountable and more responsible. So we will judge, we'll assess the success or sort of otherwise of a collaborative governance initiative if it does improve this the governance on these dimensions. Now, the expectation, ex ante expectation is that collaborative governance will build state capability because there is a lot of capacity that exists outside government which you can bring in. For example, think of a cyclone, a very favorite, you are all experts in managing cyclones now. You have to evacuate 1 million people. Do you think the state agencies can do it alone? We can't. You just get 72 hours time. And it is the people on the ground and the agencies on the ground that can be mobilized. So the state capacity gets segmented. When a train accident happened, you would need half an hour to send your fast responders. And it is in that golden half an hour, it is the local volunteers who will do all the, all kind of rescue operations. So I think a lot of capacity that is available outside the government can be tapped if we have a collaborative approach. So that's so. Secondly, this capacity is not centralized. This is dispersed and distributed. You can have this capacity in Malkangiri, you can have it in Bhubaneswar. So you have more capacity distributed all over. And the civil society organizations also have a much better knowledge of the ground. We don't, the local RI may not have that kind of knowledge also, the lowest level functionary in the government. And they have also much different understanding of the problem. They're much better understanding. I, sitting at Bhubaneswar, might not know why a particular family in Belpada block of Balangiri is migrating to Chhattisgarh. But if you talk to a local person, he would know exactly why he is doing that. So I think the local knowledge is something that we need to also figure, sort of bring into the system. And working with the grassroots organization also mean what is we always preach, not always practice is decentralization and devolution and that kind, or sort of getting more people, giving power to the people. So these are all, this is in a sense, the expectation is collaborative governance will lead to some kind of, will augment the state capacity. It will also, our expectation is that it will become more responsive because it will become more participative. The whole of the society approach will be there. It will be more participative, and there will be more inclusive. As I said, everybody, many other actors participate. It will become more inclusive in decision making, and bringing. There will be greater trust in the system because most of the time, please remember that. If you call a person and give him a hearing, whether you solve his problem or not, you don't solve his problem, he's satisfied. his voice is what he's looking for. That hear the voice and that voice is heard, that's very important. So I think the legitimacy of the governance will also is expected to improve. And accountability obviously because you are interacting with non-state actors and the public and citizens at large, I think the accountability also is supposed to, there'll be greater accountability and there is greater legitimacy also, apart from legitimacy, greater accountability to the stakeholders. So I think this will be a kind of a path breaking in terms of trust building and reducing the credibility gap that I mentioned. I think the question when we sort of having given you a kind of a flavor of what collaborative governance is all about, we need to understand why does the collaboration emerge? Whenever we look at a case of collaborative governance, we try to analyze why did the collaboration emerge? I mean, what was the need? I mean, was there a mutuality of interest? Was there something more? So the context and drivers of collaboration is extremely important. We must understand the architecture of collaboration. What kind of architecture was put in place to make the collaboration work? That is very important. The process of collaboration is also important. And finally, what kind of outcomes came out of it? Whenever we do analyze a case of collaborative governance, try and look at these four aspects, whether it is I'll give you a number of examples, but whenever you analyze a case study of collaborative governance, try and analyze this from these four. You will get a good flavor of why and why not these kind of initiatives work. Now, in the next few 10 minutes or so, I'll not sort of test your patience anymore, but let me give you some examples and from the abstract to the concrete, let me go. In the advanced countries, and most of the, unfortunately, the literature, as usual, is more sort of greater volume of literature on the advanced countries. So you'll find a number of examples because American academics are more prolific. You'll get more of American examples. And the first program and in the literature you find mention of this Calfred Bay Delta program. It's a kind of considered a textbook example of collaborative governance. And this was designed to resolve decades of conflict over water management in California. It brought together 18 state and federal agencies together to solve a problem. And this is kind of look at the range of water is an issue, and future, as people say, the future wars are likely to be fought on water, and water is a very important area. And this is Calfred Bay program is where 18 agencies came together to solve and the key lesson here was the consensus building. How do you build consensus when you are working with 18 agencies? Building consensus is extremely important. And the next is the Blackfoot Challenge. That is rural initiative in Montana where ranchers, conservationists, and government agencies they came together for the management of a watershed, Blackfoot River watershed. And this is again cited as a model of bottom-up collaboration. And the key lesson here was the importance of trust and social capital in sustaining long-term partnerships. So this is, and the next was management of a lake. And this lake was, this boundary of the lake was across few states, and how quality in that large lake. So it was not one state government could not have handled it. They had to partner with the other agencies. The counties had to, in US, every distinct counties have separate powers, states have different powers, federal agencies have different powers. So I think when there is overlapping jurisdictions, how do you solve a slightly wicked problem or a complex problem? Australia also, the next example is from the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority in Australia. Here the interesting part was indigenous community was involved in this collaboration, faced with threats of from tourism, fishing, and the run-up. The Australian government moved towards a collaborative model and that involved the indigenous communities. And here the scientists and industries were also stakeholders. So here integration of science with traditional knowledge, this was the hallmark of this collaboration. The next case study is from Canada. This is again this urban case study where 3 levels of government, federal, provincial, and municipal government, they collaborated. How do we solve complex, weak, urban problem is something that was, this case study brings out this thing. The US, 6th case study is from US, and this involved a watershed actually. 6 states, the District of Columbia, which is and numerous federal agencies, they worked together, and they sort of, the watershed restoration was the problem, and again, a number of agencies came together. So I think the whole 6 problems that we saw, 6 case studies we saw from the West, largely they have looked at watershed, water, environment. So these are areas where collaboration has worked very sort of effectively, and these are all showcased. In the emerging countries, the best known example and best known matlab, they are more well cited. I wouldn't say the best. One who write about this case study, which is there are more papers, that's more well known. Not necessarily that's the best case. This thing. The participatory budgeting of Brazil is a very well known, and the BRICS had organized a conference on it about 5 years back. I had the good fortune of participating in this. Think of the urban context. Now, you have a municipal budget. Certain sum is allocated to a municipal ward. A ward in Bhubaneswar will be more than 1 lakh of people. Does anybody know how that money is getting spent? We really don't know. It's only the ward member possibly knows about it, and a couple of his friends and cronies know about it. So Brazil innovated this concept of participatory budgeting, where citizens they participate in a more open democracy, direct democracy kind of thing, and that was a huge sort of, even today it remains. So direct citizen participation in city governance this is a hallmark, and this is today, even today it's sustainable. It has not, unlike many government initiatives, it has sustained. Whether it was Bolsonaro or Lula, this has remained. So this is a very robust model. The other is the example from Amazon basin in Peru, and again a number of indigenous groups are involved here, and how the collaboration navigated the land rights of indigenous people or rights of indigenous people was brought out in this case study. The next is river basin management in Colombia. That is something, again, here private, public and civic partnership happened, again, for management of a watershed. And the 4th example is livelihood. It's a case study from Ghana. That's more about livelihoods, more like our NRLM, National Rural Livelihood Mission. This is a anti-poverty alleviation program, and it did demonstrate how collaboration can improve legitimacy and targeting of social welfare program, which is a problem for us. Everywhere we go, people say, all kinds of wrong beneficiaries have been chosen, and the more eligible ones have been left out. So a collaborative approach in Ghana has demonstrated that it can be be more effective. community-based forest management, Nepal. I mean, although we have had the Indian case study, Nepal preceded India. And this is again how communities can be involved in managing forests. This is a good example, and although I don't have personal knowledge, I've heard from friends that it's still working very well. We also in India, I'll come to that later. And finally, the sixth example is management of a river. It was in Indonesia, the sixth case study it was the most polluted river at one point of time. And now how the agencies came together, and here the military was involved in the collaboration, and a kind of, have a hybrid leadership using military discipline. How could they jumpstart the collaborative process and improve the chaotic regulatory environment and improve the water quality? So restoration of a river was an example in this case. Now let me, next 5 minutes, let me spend and conclude. India has had some iconic cases of collaborative governance, and although we have not discussed much about it, the four iconic examples of collaborative governance I can cite is, one is Green Revolution in mid-60s. Do you think it is only because Norman Borlaug gave some seeds that it happened? No. It happened because scientists, the government, the farm leadership, the panchayats, everybody came together to make it happen. So Green Revolution is an excellent example of collaborative governance. And this is something that we need to, and that solved a very major problem. At that time, please remember, if the ships didn't arrive in the ports in time, there could be a food riot in India. So that was the situation in mid-60s. White Revolution again is the case study of collaborative governance. There was a small, milk union in Anand. How it was scaled up with a huge national program. Although it was, the Tribhuvan Das Patel and Dr. Kurian, they were involved in the small Anand example, how the Prime Minister came in, he gave a mandate, created NDDB, got the whole apparatus of national, the Operation Flood was rolled out, how scientists came in. So the whole example, the White Revolution itself, that we see is again example of technocracy, scientists, administrators, village cooperatives coming together to make it happen. So again, a very iconic example of collaborative governance. The third example is again a literacy, national literacy mission in the late 80s. Some of you may have joined service around that time. Many of you may not have. But in the late 80s, India started this mission of full literacy. And millions of volunteers came together. And it was purely voluntary. Much like the later Swachh Bharat mission, millions of volunteers came together to make every citizen of the country literate. In fact, districts competed with each other to declare 100% literacy first. Kottayam in Kerala, I think, this was the first district that declared. So that was the amount of energy that was channelized, that was sort of triggered because of and nobody was paid for this. Nobody was paid for this. It was purely voluntary effort. Government managed to bring in to sort of to have this great success. Of course, 100% literacy may not have happened, but it gave an impetus to the concept of literacy as such. And if you see the India's trajectory in literacy has taken an upswing from the late 80s onwards. Swachh Bharat mission of late, and this is a recent example, we may say that, okay, it has 100% has not happened, but it has achieved tremendous impact. Today, at least, if you go to, and I believe me, some of the dirtiest areas of the state I visited, and they are remarkably cleaner. I wouldn't say fully this thing, but I know my hometown is Sambalpur. One area was absolutely no-go area. It was absolutely open defecation. Defecation was rampant. But today you drive through that area on the road to Samleswari temple, it's clean. People don't defecate in the open. So I think there has been an attempt that has succeeded, I would say. I would say that people might say, okay, it's not 100%. So what? We have moved very close to that. Now, some other examples, recent examples, aside from the iconic example, Kudumsri in Kerala. Of course, many other livelihood missions have come, but 1998, Kudumsri is a gold standard in collaboration in livelihood space. Of course, we have the SERP mission in Andhra Pradesh, Undivided. Our own Mission Shakti is a very good example. Bihar Livelihood Program is a good example. So these are all examples where government has collaborated with the non-state agencies to make things happen. And the role of the Kudumsri in managing COVID, and much like your own panchayats and Odisha's panchayats initiative and the Mission Shakti and others, they have also in disaster situation, they have worked very, I would say, remarkably. Joint forest management is again a more recent initiative. Not many, I don't know, Bhaskar, if you know or not. And the person who sort of championed that, he is no more, late Professor Radhamohan. He was not working in forest, but he actually relentlessly pursued this, and they convinced the then Prime Minister, Chief Minister, and against the forest bureaucracy. The forest bureaucracy was totally against it. They opposed it tooth and nail, but it was sort of issued, and it was 2 years later, Government of India came out with joint forest management scheme. Now, here again, wherever people have been involved, we couldn't use forest protection, we couldn't use forest protection forces, but wherever people have been involved, and we had, it's not that it came out from the blue. The communities were involved in managing forest, protecting forests for generations. In Dhenkanal, in Nayagad, in many places, in Sundargarh, in Jharsuguda. So these knowledge was brought in and formalized. And that has, and even today, I think in the literature, if you see, West Bengal and Odisha are shown, have been cited as good case studies in joint forest management. Of course, there are some issues that they need to be tackled. The Bhagidari scheme in the urban space also of New Delhi, 1998, in civic management is also a very well-known case study in collaborative governance. Here, in the urban space, the citizens blame civic authorities for being unresponsive, and the civic authorities blame the citizens for being uncooperative. How do we bring them together to solve the common problem? So I think Bhagidari is an innovation in that, and it has sustained, whether it was Sheila Dikshit, whether it was Arvind Kejriwal, or whether it is Rekha Gupta, this collaboration has remained. Social audit in MGNREGA, only in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, I will qualify. In these two states, they are quite sort of remarkable. They have had tremendous results. The record in other states are somewhat mixed. I wouldn't say very good, but these two states, even today, Rajasthan wasn't very good either. Kerala also, it's not very good. But in these two states, social audit in MGNREGA is certainly a good case study of collaborative governance. The next two case studies are the watershed management. Watershed management is again something from the 80s onwards has had remarkable success. I think today, of course, I see a sort of downsizing of watershed development initiative. Made tremendous impact in terms of protecting the watersheds, in rejuvenating land, water and environment. Water Users Association again is an great example of collaborative governance. It started in many parts, and including Odisha's own example of Pani Panchayat. But here, I think in watershed and in watershed water users association, the important thing is that as long as decision making is participative and consensus based, it will work very well. Wherever the model has slightly deviated, where the bureaucracy starts dominating this thing, like I hear in some cases of forest management, the bureaucracy dominates and the community is somewhat marginalized. Similarly, in water users association also, if consensus is the principle, is the basis of decision making, if it is still the bureaucracy treats the non-stakeholders as partners, not as recipients of benefits, I think it will work very well. But nevertheless, I think these two are very good examples of collaborative governance, and if there are, these need to be sort of refueled in a sense. We need to take a pause and see where are we, and sort of revive if necessary to the extent possible. And finally, I think we don't realize, and this is again the National Payments Corporation of India. We use it almost every day 10 times, all the payments we made. Do you think it's a government initiative? No. RBI is sort of brought out a model and sort of this thing, and it is a public sector and private sector banks together have come to, the company is owned by both private and public sector together. And RBI as the regulator, they sort of, they set a common standards. We have an excellent, payments architecture, which is gold standard in the globally. So today, millions of transactions happen every minute. So again, National Payments Corporation of India is an extremely good example of collaborative governance. Whether we have realized it or not, it is one of that. So I think these are sort of very good examples, I can say. In your own example, you can get many more. You may have done many more things when you were in the district or you are still working in the field. But try and reflect on this model and try and see whether you can use collaborative framework for delivering better outcomes. Finally, I think let me sort of summarize a little bit. What are the conditions where collaborative approach is likely to work better? First thing is that where problems are very complex, don't try it in simple problems. They will anyway. You can see where problems are of a wicked or complex nature, which involve multiple stakeholders, which require shared resources, which requires consensus building and trust building, which require massive social mobilization. Whichever program requires massive social mobilization, collaboration is inescapable. I think this is something I would like to highlight. Local, wherever you need local knowledge and expertise, again, collaboration is a good thing. And programs which require behavior change, something like Swachh Bharat Mission. So these are programs where you need behavior change. Again, collaboration is something that would be very useful. I don't think government agencies are very good at inducing behavior change. So I think these are sort of conditions I would flag. They are very, they will make collaborative governance a very useful model. Let me finally leave with this quote on a very this thing. This is something I like quoting very frequently. It's getting good players is very easy, but getting them to play together is often very hard. So with that thought, I'll conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. That was both thought-provoking, and for many of us who struggle to see how to go forward, this has given us a new structure with so many deep insights. And I would just like to throw the floor open to both our collectors and teams here who have joined us online, and to the House. Just a few questions, maybe a couple of questions. If you would like to ask, sir, we'll be very happy to take them. Yes. District teams?
Madam, my question is, Madam.
From here, from the House?
Yes, from
Yes,
House.
please. Introduce yourself in a line.
Myself is Sukanta
Sit down and speak.
I am Director PGPA. My question is, Madam, we have spent a lot of money on Ganga cleaning. It is a collective.
Speak clearly into the mic. So, sir.
Madam, my question is, we have spent a lot of money on Ganga cleaning, but it is not effective till date. So, where is the lacuna? Just we want to know from sir.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions?
Any more, sir, will then answer together. Just use any.
We can take some more questions and sir can take them together. Teams from the districts?
Chitra, can I ask?
Yes, please.
Sir, I would like to know your views on the freebies, increasing appeasement to the voters or citizens.
That was our Revenue Secretary.
Ma'am, if I can ask, this is Secretary Mission Shakti, sir.
Can you raise your hand? Yes.
So, sir, my question is, as part of this collaborative governance, I want to know this. When you talk of NPM, the governance model in India we have is more welfare, and if we need to go to NPM model, giving more space to, let's say, in private enterprises or capital enterprises, we need to have a very strong governance model. But somehow in administration, we never build our strength, or should we build our strength in certain schemes where we can regulate these with a knowledge of law and the contracts.
Shall I take these questions, sir?
Ma'am, can I ask one question?
Who is it? From where?
Ma'am, this side, Sagarika, sir. Ma'am, on the right side, in the hall, ma'am.
Okay, yes.
Ma'am, my question is, sir, in the example of collaborative governance, has given lot many examples of settlement of water issues in US. Why we can't settle the Mahanadi issue on collaborative governance?
Very provocative question. Anyone from the districts, district teams? House has taken
Yes,
enough
ma'am.
questions.
Jajpur, ma'am.
Yes, Jajpur. Amber?
Ma'am, the sir was speaking about trust deficit with the government system. Isn't the trust deficit with the non-state actor now more prevalent, where the trust is also an issue with the non-state actors also?
Sir, that's the basket of questions, and I'll request sir to take them, please.
Can I answer from here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First question is Ganga cleaning. Beyond my competence to sort of explain or even sort of give any explanation for why it hasn't worked. Certainly, like you, I would also like to believe that a lot of money has been spent, but my impression is some amount of cleaning has taken place. Why it hasn't worked is something that requires a more involved analysis, frankly, beyond my competence to answer. But whenever we sort of design a solution, unless we do a root cause analysis and sort of design programs accordingly, we don't. Often we treat the symptoms, we don't treat the sort of the basic cause. I think that is a problem that we see in most. I mean, for example, take the case of air pollution in Delhi. Often we are treating symptoms. We are not treating the causes. I think maybe something like this is happening in Ganga, but I can frankly confess my sort of inability to answer that question. Freebies, yes, Arvind, you asked this question. Again, although not directly relevant to this thing, I have made. See, it's very difficult to. There is no clear definition of what you call a freebie. It's basically your guess or your saying against mine. What we call freebie, politicians think they are very legitimate entitlements. So one simple framework I use in distinguishing between freebies and good welfare program is whether any program or policy sort of improves either efficiency or equity or both. If it does, then I would call it a genuine welfare intervention. If it doesn't, I would say it's a freebie. For example, take my own, I mean, you have worked there, I have worked it. I think fertilizer subsidy is clearly something that is non-merit. Whereas giving a bicycle to a school girl for improving literacy, it improves both efficiency and equity. So I think the touchstone is whether a program or a policy improves efficiency and equity, and if it does, then I think it's a very legitimate welfare program. So that's my short answer to that. The NPM style, whether we should have more skills in regulatory capacity, yes, NPM requires very good regulatory capacity on the part of government. One of the reasons why private-public partnerships have not worked very well in India because we have not handled the regulatory issues very well. No future cannot be predicted with certainty. There will be uncertainty, there will be some contingencies which the contracts may not have envisaged. So in those situations, what do we do? For example, we have built a road where we have estimated particular traffic density and it doesn't come about, and the company is sort of bleeding. So how do you rescue that initiative? So these are areas where we need regulatory capacity, which is very important, and your point is well taken. We need strong regulatory capacity to be able to imbibe the principles of NPM. Water issues, Mahanadi, I think tricky issue, sub judice, simple answer I can say. Yes, but the examples that I have given clearly show that judicial forum is not the best forum to resolve this dispute. My short answer to your question is, world over, water issues have been solved more through collaborative approach than through any legislative approach. So I think a more collaborative approach possibly is the way out. I don't know whether that will be worked here, because these are highly politically charged issues, and anything I say would be, sort of misreported, and I'm bound to be hauled up. So I would stop at that. Trust deficit. I think Jajpur asked this question. Yeah, just as there is trust deficit for the, people, there is in respect of public representatives and bureaucracy. Civil society is also, so there are credibility issues regarding this thing, but we know exactly which is the, when we collaborate, we know which are the good agencies to collaborate with. We can't collaborate with rogues and call it collaboration. So I think the trust deficit in collaboration, in designing collaboration is also very important. We need to be very careful about which agencies we invite to collaborate. Anybody with any track record, with any kind of reputation, we cannot take in. So reputation, credibility is as important for civil society as it is for us.
Thank you, sir. A deep dive presentation from sir led to a lot of inquisitive questions. We would now request Chief Secretary to hand over a small token of our affection to sir. Sir, put it. I request our Deputy Director General, Dr. Monalisa Lenka, to propose a vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. When we come to the end of this program, I take this opportunity to deliver a vote of thanks on the occasion of the Civil Services Day, which we are observing today. At the outset, I express our sincere gratitude to Sri Jugal Kishore Mahapatra sir for his insightful keynote address. His reflections drawn from years of distinguished service have truly enriched our understanding and motivated us to strive for excellence in public administration. Sir has nicely explained to us the gaps in governance, how to identify it, and the need to develop strategies to overcome it. And he has focused on collaborative governance and its significance by citing case studies from inside the state and of the nation as well. I convey our heartfelt thanks to Srimati Anu Garg, Chief Secretary of ODISHA, for her inspiring address to the House, which has set the tone for today's deliberations and reminded us of our collective responsibility towards ensuring responsive and citizen-centric governance. Ma'am has always guided us, and her role in shaping the present and future administrators of our state is quite impressive. I also extend my sincere thanks to Srimati Chitra Arumugam, ACS and Director General of Gopabandhu Academy of Administration, for her continuous guidance and support for organizing this program. Thanks to the esteemed secretaries of different departments, directors, All India Service Officers, State Administrative Service Officers, RDCs and District Collectors and their team who have joined us through OSWAN. I take this opportunity to thank all the participants who have joined us in large numbers and contributed meaningfully during the open house interaction. The exchange of ideas and best practices has made this program both encouraging and enriching. Thanks to all those who have joined us through live streaming and have been a part of this program. I also sincerely thank the INPR department for their support to outreach and media coordination, and OCAC for their technical support and seamless arrangements. I also acknowledge the dedicated efforts of the organizing team at Gopabandhu Academy of Administration for their meticulous planning and seamless execution of the program. Last but not the least, today we must not forget to remember and thank Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, whose birthday today, that is 21st April, is being celebrated every year as the Civil Services Day. He is the one who referred to the civil servants as the steel frame of India, emphasizing their role in nation building. Taking inspiration from this, as we observe today the Civil Services Day, we reaffirm our commitment to the ideals of integrity, accountability, and service to the people. With these words, I once again thank each one of you for your valuable presence and contribution in making this program a grand success. Thank you all. Now I invite all the dignitaries and participants to join us for the high tea. We will go to the upstairs. High tea has been arranged there. Thank you all.